Now then, when we realize that it's necessary to put God's Word first place in our lives, we make that decision, then we are a long ways down the road toward exercising the victory of the God and growing up spiritually into Him and into the things of God's Word and into the things of God's life, and have His life manifested in our lives. It would be like, have you ever taken any lessons where the instructor was hands-on? In other words, something you flat didn't know how to do, but once the instructor put his hand on your hand, I mean, it worked. You did it. But then he took his hands off, I mean, it's like nothing happened, you know. You think, and he puts his hands back over there, and he guided you through it. And it worked. And I remember one time, a golf instructor, I took 2 or 3 golf lessons one time, and walked up there, and he put his hands over my hand, and when I'd putt, I'll tell you, that ball just take off there, and he'd take his hands off, and man, I mean, it looked like the ball was mad at me or something. But when as long as his hands were on, I had what? Guidance. I was being guided by someone that knew more about it than I do. Now, when we make the quality decision to put God's Word first place in our life, or any other decision that has to do with God's Word and living, like making a decision to live by faith, or making the decision to live by the love of God, live the love life that God has commanded us to live. When you make that kind of decision, that's when the Spirit of God begins to put His hand over your hand, and your daily life then begins to change. And there'll be times you get off on your own, you know, and yeah, I'm gonna fit. And boy, I mean, you mess it up so bad. And you think, oh, God, forgive me. And you get back over here on the right kind of walk with God. And His guidance then begins to teach and train you. And you come to a place where you are teachable. You begin to be teachable. You begin to be a learner. Instead of a smart aleck. You understand what I mean by that? I mean, instead of acting like you know everything. I mean, like I heard Brother Kenneth Hagin say one time, he said, you know, you can keep your mouth shut and people just kind of suspect maybe you don't know much. But he said, boy, you open your mouth, you'll prove you don't know anything. And he said, besides that, you can't learn anything listening to yourself. You already know everything you know. He said, the way you're going to learn something is listening to somebody else. And I thought, dear God, that is so simple, but that's profound, brother. I mean, the only way you're going to learn anything from God's listen to Him. Take the time to search His Word. Take the time to listen to Him. Talk to Him. Visit with Him all day long.